you know, we kind of got like a baseline of like what the trade-in was worth by like submitting it on Carvana.com, and you know, Julie's car was a pretty common car, so it wasn't like we had to go in to get the number. And so I think Carvana offered us 12 grand for the car without seeing it. But the one thing about Julie's car was the front seat was a little mismatched because she had spilled hand sanitizer on the front seat during the pandemic, and it had ate through some of the coating, and so we had tried to get it refinished, and it just didn't turn out right. The color just didn't match. And so obviously Carvana didn't see that, and so I felt like when you go to buy a car from a dealership, they're a little bit more generous than like Carvana would be. So I felt we could probably get a little bit more, plus we would get the tax credit for trading it in against this car. So we decided to trade it in, but you know, when they bring out these numbers, they really just like start to confuse you because they like shift your focus to the, you know, the trade-in, and then they're like, all right, if you agree on the trade-in, will you buy the car? And it's like, well, we still have to negotiate the car. So basically the way I found, the way that's best to negotiate with them is to just focus on like the final number. So, you know, they can do whatever they want with the trade-in. So if you're going to be financing and, you know, you basically do the math backwards of like, okay, I want my payment to be X. So then, you know, my financed amount has to be $21,000. And so your interest rate doesn't really matter that much because it's such a short loan and it's usually a pretty small amount. So if you go from 5 to 6% interest, it's not really going to, you know, affect you like it would if you got $2,000 off the car. So I wouldn't really focus too much on interest rate or payment. I would just focus on the amount financed. So that way you don't have to focus on the price of the car, the taxes, the registration, the trade-in, nothing. It's like, hey, I'm willing to finance $20,000. I'll give you my car, and I'll give you X down. Other than that, I'm out. So whether you have to lower the price of the car, up the amount of the trade, it doesn't really matter. You do whatever you need to do, but that's all I can finance. And so you don't really worry about the payment or the interest rate because you already know roughly what the payment's going to be, and then you let them do the work. So they'll come back to you and like, well, what does the payment have to be? It's like, hey man, I can finance $20,000, so I'm going to give you 10 down. I'm going to give you my trade-in. You figure out the rest. And once you do that, then, you know, the sheet with all the confusing numbers no longer matters. It's all just about getting to that $20,000 financed. And then you can kind of negotiate from there based on what you want your payment to be. So, you know, if you know you only want to finance $25,000, then maybe you start at 20 until, you know, then you go up, all right, I'll finance 21 until you get to the number. Because if you're looking at the payment or you're looking at the interest rate and stuff like that, it's never gonna math out well for you. It's always gonna math out better for the car dealer because they're gonna, you know, backtrack the numbers to make it work best for them. And that's all that really matters. Like, you don't really care if they give you 13 or 13.5 for your trade-in. You just care like, all right, what's my payment going to be, or what amount am I paying out the door? So if you're not going to finance, then you just say, hey, this is the amount of cash I'm going to give you out the door. That's it. There's no dealing with the fees or the discounts or it's, hey, I've got $25,000 to give you. That's it. But yeah, so, you know, we kind of learned that, and, you know, once I realized like that was the focus, it was a lot easier to negotiate with these clowns. The other thing that you have to realize is when you're, you know, buying a car and you're financing it, you're going to get a better deal because they're going to make money on the financing. And same thing when you're trading in. If you're not financing and you're not trading in, it's going to be harder to get a better deal on the actual car because they're not going to make any money on the financing or trade-in. So it all has to come from the car. So you either have to find a car that has been on the lot for a long time or have to suck it up and pay their price if you're not willing to wait. You don't really have a lot of leverage when you're just paying cash and you're not financing anything. But the manager was super cool there, and it was at Land Rover Arrowhead or Jaguar Arrowhead, something like that. I think they're all owned by the same company or whatever, but yeah, it's in Glendale. And I don't know, after we negotiated the deal, they brought us a bottle of champagne and we had a drink. We got the numbers done and it worked out well. So they took care of a little bit of curb rash on one of the wheels, and they fixed a little dent that was in the fender here. and they put brand new tires on it. Obviously, I think these are 21-inch rims, so definitely not cheap to get tires for this car, so that was nice. And obviously did, you know, the full maintenance and everything. So yeah, I mean, the most important part is like when you go buy a car, you just want to feel like you got a good deal. You don't want to feel like you overpaid or you got taken advantage of. So, because then that takes away the fun of the car. Because now you're worried about all the finances. So let's get this last wheel before we start on the paint. But yeah, so that was the story with this car. And so far we're pretty happy with it. Other than that, we've kind of slowed down on the cabin search. Interest rates are just high, and I think, you know, prices still have some, I mean, prices have just continually dropped in those areas. So we're just going to continue to wait it out until the right deal comes up for the right price. So we've, you know, I still look every day, but just nothing has really caught my attention. So in the meantime, Julie and I went and bought a couple of cars. So, but, you know, Julie and I, we kind of figured it's like, one, Julie works super, super hard. So, you know, for her to not drive the car that she wants, you know, for how hard both of us work, I thought it was a just decision. And realistically, like, buying this car isn't really going to change our financial situation. So it was a pretty easy choice. And then same thing with the truck. It's like I spent a lot of time driving and, you know, I've worked really hard. And so I thought about getting an F-150, just a gas truck to hold me over. And because I don't really need like a diesel truck. I'm not towing anything or anything like that. So, but then I just decided, I was like, you know what? If I want a diesel truck, who cares? I'm just going to get it.
Morning.
Morning, how are you?
Yeah. Getting it clean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. If you get bored, I got a couple.
All right, you let me know. For some reason, the neighbors think that's the funniest joke. So that's it for the wheels. We'll rinse these off, and then I'll rinse the car and get the camera going. So the soap that we're using on this is way more slick than your normal like Adams car shampoo. And the reason why you don't want to use it when you're regularly washing is because it'll strip any, you know, waxes that you have on the car. But that's what we want right now. I do this as a DIYer. I'm not like a professional detailer. 90% better than most cars, but it's not going to be perfect like a professional detailer would get it. I'm not going to rinse my pad every 2 inches and all that nonsense, but I'm going to do a good job. And I'm going to get the car to where it needs to be. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Julie's going to drive it. She'll probably take it through an automatic car wash without telling me. And if I don't dunk my pad every 2 inches, it's not the end of the world. But the real estate team is growing. I think we're up to 7 or 8 guys now. And so, you know, we're wholesaling, we're listing, we're helping buyers. And, you know, I was talking to one of my guys because they were getting a little discouraged. But I'm like, you're brand new to the business. You've been in the business for 6 months. The market's changing. And you're doing, your business is increasing. Like, you're doing more and more deals each month that goes by. Versus a lot of people who have been in the business for years, their business is decreasing right now. So, you know, as the market decreases and your business increases, you're getting more and more market share. So when the market comes back and there's more sales volume, you'll have that much more business. And so I was like, you got to be appreciative that, you know, a lot of people right now are seriously questioning whether they should get a different job or do something different. And we're growing, you know, we're adding people to the team. We're doing more and more deals. And so as these people leave the business, it's just bringing opportunity for us. I say that to give you guys the advice if you're in real estate, which I know it's a good portion of the people that watch this that are. You can't get discouraged because you had a bad month after, you know, 2 years of just absolute craziness. you know, record-breaking months. It's like, hey man, you just need to readjust your strategy, reevaluate whether the effort that you're putting in is the proper amount of effort, and then get back at it. But, you know, I was telling him, I was like, when I was in your shoes in 2012, and, you know, we're shifting from the short sales and REOs and all that stuff, my mindset was like, I'm not going to quit and give up while I'm losing. So if I want to quit this thing, it's going to be like when I've seen victory in this business. And that's what I did. I wasn't willing to quit when I made 60 grand or 70 grand. You know, I only gave myself the option. I was like, all right, if I'm making 200, 300 grand and I still want to quit, then we can consider it. But just because I'm not to where I want to be yet, that doesn't mean I'm going to quit. And I say that because, like, if you were making 200, 300 grand, you wouldn't quit. And the truth is, it's possible. It's totally possible for you to make 200 or 300 grand. So, you know, it's easy to quit when you're only making 40, 50, or not even that. So I'm going to get this rinsed down, and then I'll hit it with the iron remover. All right, so now we're going to soak it down with Iron X. But just know that this stuff stinks. So you'll see when you're spraying this stuff down, you'll let it sit for like 5 minutes, and you'll be able to see if there's any iron, because it'll turn purple. It'll be a little bit more difficult to see on this car since it's black, but I don't expect too much. But this stuff basically smells like, it almost smells like rotten eggs, but like with like a chemical taste. Like it almost smells good, like a cleaner, but then it just has like a rotten egg taste or smell that's really bad. But we'll use it just to be safe. You'll want to make sure that you get the wheels, and then that's it. So I use probably like 80% of this bottle or 70% of this bottle. So I'll let this sit for a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to rinse it down. All right, so the last step of the Decon wash is we're going to use some Nanoskin Auto Glide and a clay bar. So you can use regular clay or you can use one of these. But basically you just spray this on as lube. So you can use soapy water, whatever you want. Just get it going. And it's more about speed than it is pressure. So we'll do the whole car, and then we'll rinse it off one last time, and we'll be ready to dry it off. So you don't want to use any drying aid when you're drying it. Obviously that's what we just worked hard to strip off. So I usually do the glass first. And the cool thing about this is if you drop it on the ground, you don't have to throw it out. You can just rinse it off. And so you don't have to get every square inch, but, you know, just be methodical and have a plan of, okay, I'm going to do the hood, I'm going to do the fenders, so on and so forth, so that you get a majority of the car. I did tell Julie I'm much more excited to wash this car than I am to wash the Acura. Not that the Acura is a bad car, it's just kind of boring to wash. It doesn't really have any charm to it, so I promised her I would do this full detail. Even after I bought the truck, I said I would do yours first, then I'll do the truck. But I'll probably be burnt out after this for a while, so the truck will get its time eventually. And you can dry off the car before you do this, but I don't find it necessary. Just kind of feel like the water helps. So now that we got the glass, we'll start on the hood. So you'll be able to feel like as you scrub it, the paint will smooth itself out. And so periodically just dip it in your bucket. And so this will mar the paint. So if you're going to do this, you're going to have to polish afterwards, because you're basically, the dirt gets picked up in the sponge, and then you're wiping it across the paint. So it's going to mar no matter what. So this stuff smells a lot better than the iron remover. This is one of the most satisfying processes though, because you can like feel it with your hands as the paint smooths out, and the sponge just glides across super easy. I know a lot of people are probably sad that I sold the F10, or not sad, just not interested anymore in the channel. But I don't know. Like, it was bound to happen sometime. I wasn't going to make F10 content for the rest of my life. And that car was just getting too many miles on it. And, you know, because I was driving it so much. So I figured at some point, I'm going to have to sell it. And I'm going to have to make a change in content. And so, all right, so that's it. So thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like on the video, and I'll see you guys next week.